Yesterday, we had what will be historic election of 2024. And I would like to share in the aftermath of that a message to both sides of the political division that I think is incredibly important for us all to remember right now. I'll start off by saying that, as those of you who watch my podcast channel know, I am not a proponent of either side. I'm here to talk about the election objectively and to speak to both sides. Whether you voted for Kamala or Trump, this message is for you. I want to start by sharing my love and care to everybody. This election was exhausting for a lot of people, and the outcome was devastating for a lot of people. I just want to give a big hug to anyone who is suffering right now. And I want you to know that no matter who you are, no matter who you voted for, no matter what your political persuasion is, you matter. Your voice matters. Your feelings matter. Your hopes and dreams matter. To those of you who are suffering, I see you. I see the suffering and the experiences and the convictions and the decisions that led you to vote the way that you did. And I feel your disappointment, your fear at the results of the election. To those of you who are celebrating right now, I feel your joy. I feel your relief. I see you and the suffering and the life experience and the convictions and the beliefs that have led you to vote the way that you did yesterday. I think everybody could use a reminder right now that people are allowed to feel the way that they feel. There's a lot of emotions being expressed all across social media, and that is okay. We live in a country where we are allowed to state our opinions and our feelings and to say them publicly and express them publicly through freedom of speech. But where we need to grow as a nation is that we need to be more willing to listen. We need to be more willing to hear each other and to empathize when people use their freedom of speech. In order to do that, we have to grow within ourselves. Each one of us has to be secure and strong enough within ourselves that we do not take other people's viewpoints, convictions, feelings, or votes as a personal offense against us. If someone is grieving, upset, or afraid right now, and if people are lashing out with their words because of that grief and that fear, just allow them to feel that way. Allow them to feel what they feel without it having anything to do with you personally or with me personally. Don't take it on. Don't react and get defensive. Just allow. Just remind yourself that that person has had a different life experience than you that has led them to where they are, and their life experience is just as valid as yours, and they're allowed to feel what they feel. If someone is celebrating today and you are not, don't take it as an attack or as insensitive towards you and your grief. Let those people experience their joy. Let them celebrate without it having anything to do with you, without it being personal against you. One of the things about being human is that it comes with a whole spectrum of emotions. And we cannot insist upon the right to feel how we feel and think how we think and vote how we want to vote without affording that right to other people. That's part of being in a democracy. When we are strong in ourselves, when we know who we are and we've developed our spiritual awareness, we don't need to take other people's feelings, other people's words personally. We don't need to take them on in guilt. We don't need to get reactive towards them, defensive against them. We just allow them to be human just like we are. Allow them to be where they are at. Like I alluded to earlier, we have freedom of speech in this country. We have the freedom to vote for whichever candidate is most aligned for us, and that's wonderful. But we as a nation need to learn a little more empathy. We need to learn how to love. We need to learn how to respond to others' freedom of speech, others' freedom to express themselves, others' freedom to vote for the candidate that feels aligned for them with love and empathy and allowance. Love is not either attachment or aversion. Attachment and aversion are two sides of the same coin, and they both keep you bound to a cycle of suffering. Either you're attached to a particular outcome or you have an aversion to a particular outcome in order to be at peace within yourself. And when you are not at peace within yourself, you cannot truly love another person without reacting either in attachment or an aversion to their self-expression, to their freedom of speech, to their emotional expression. Love means being strong and at peace in who you are, and then being able to offer empathy to another person, the ability to see life through their eyes, not to take on their feelings and wear them as guilt upon yourself, but to understand where they're coming from. The most important thing for us right now, and I maintain this regardless of what the political situation may be, far more important than voting in any specific person in office, is that we learn to empathize with each other. Because there are a limited number of people in power, but there are millions of us in this country, so many more than them. Far more than what they are doing in Washington matters what we are doing in our day-to-day lives, how we are treating each other, how we are responding to each other. We are so much more powerful simply in the numbers. And that's why the greatest tactic of people who actually want to take power over us is to divide and conquer. Because if we are at each other's throats over differences in political persuasions, differences in how we voted, then we're at their mercy. We are only powerful when we work together, when we come together. And the beginning of that is being able to empathize with another person, no matter how wrong we may think they are, no matter how hard of a time we may have understanding. Being willing to put ourselves in their shoes and try to understand what led them to what they are is the beginning of that. And we need to do that now. I have people on my social media feed that I've known for years cutting people out of their lives right now because they voted for the opposite presidential candidate. And that concerns me more than any person getting elected to office or any policy decision. When I see that kind of closing off of the heart, inability to understand another person's point of view, that concerns me more than anything, because that will tear us apart from the inside. No matter who is in office, no matter what political wins we have, that kind of division and that kind of line drawing will tear us apart from the inside. So let's take a moment to break this down a little bit. I usually don't go here, but I will today. Let's try to understand why people may have voted the way that they did. This is probably the most polarized election I've experienced in my lifetime. And from my perspective, as being more of an objective observer, and also looking at the polls to see why people actually said that they voted the way that they did, I would present you with this. Many people who voted left actually believe that Trump is a fascist. They believe that Trump is sexist, racist, and homophobic, and that he is out to take away people's rights. Some people believe that he's going to go round up the members of the LGBTQ community and they're going to have to leave the country. Some people actually believe that Trump will try to take control when his term is over. And rightfully so, based on what happened last time. People on the right, many of them, believe the exact opposite. They believe that the Democratic Party, well, the Democratic and Republican Party, both up to this point, have been controlled by the deep state agenda. That every candidate that's been put in office has been a puppet, and that somebody higher up is pulling the strings, and that this higher up control has an agenda to dumb us down by poisoning our food supply, poisoning our water supply, dumbing down the curriculum in the public schools, etc. People voted for Trump because they believe that he is the first political candidate in a long time who is not part of this deep state agenda, and that he will stand up to the system. That's why people voted for Trump. People voted for Harris because they believe that she will take on the fight for the rights of marginalized people in this country. What we don't want to do is sweep people into broad generalizations. And I've seen this all over social media as well, where people are reacting in horror and shock, saying the majority of the country is homophobic and racist because they voted Trump into office. And that's just simply not true. It's just that for those people, the issues of fixing the economy and getting the government out of our food supply and our school curriculum was a priority to them based on their life experiences that led them there. Whereas those who voted for Harris, issues of basic human rights and equality, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, rights for people of color, that was their priority. And these are both important issues. And wouldn't it be nice if we had a candidate on the ballot who would tackle all of them? But we'll get to that in a moment. Of course, I will say, based on my personal experience of being in the Christian church for 35 years, there is a subset of people who are openly homophobic, although they would deny it. And those people do go to the ballot to vote against rights for LGBTQ people. And to those people, I say, the time for that way of thinking is over. We need to progress. Voting against LGBTQ rights is today's biggest form of prejudice. And while I have compassion for you and for what led you to where you are, I will take a stand against that on this platform. And yes, of course, there's a subset of people who are racist and sexist, blatantly so. Just as there is a subset of people on the left who are openly pushing for Marxism and socialism. But for the most part, people voted for who they did because their life experience and their suffering drove them to do it. People voted for Kamala because they care about their LGBTQ neighbors and family members and friends, because they care about women who are dying because of their inability to get reproductive care in situations where it is medically needed. People voted for Trump because under the Biden administration, they had to choose between keeping the lights on or paying for their kids' doctor's bills because prices went up so much that they can't even afford to put food on the table because their child just got diagnosed with prediabetes due to the horrific excuse that we have for school lunches, because they just got diagnosed with a life-threatening chronic disease that if they had known years earlier how to prevent it, they would have. But because the pharmaceutical company is controlling our medical supply, people don't have access to that knowledge. People are voting for the candidate, in most cases, that is promising to do something about the issues that are most prominent in their life. So the person who voted differently than you is a human. They love, they suffer, they see their children suffering. They see women suffering and dying. They see LGBTQ people living in fear because of policy that's been passed. They see the population suffering and dying due to preventable diseases. They see that our children, younger and younger, are becoming obese and riddled with chronic health issues. And unfortunately, all of these issues were not covered under one candidate, so people have to choose. We need to be empathetic enough to put ourselves into another person's shoes. If I say one thing in the entire time that I'm a content creator that I want people to hear and remember and implement, it is that empathy is what will save our nation. Empathy is what will save the world. Love will save the world. But we have not yet, as a general rule, learned or understood what love is. Love is the ability to allow another person who thinks and believes differently than we do, who's had a different life experience as we do, to be valid, to be where they are at, without it being personal against us. And then taking appropriate action to relieve suffering in any way that we can. Here's the thing, we all want the same thing. I would say if you sit down every American and ask them this question, 99% of Americans, of people, of humans in general, would agree to this. We all want a world where everybody has equal rights, the right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, to be and express as they are, to be healthy, to be abundant, to be prosperous, to have a good economy, to live out a full lifetime without chronic disease, to have successful businesses, to have a good border policy that both protects Americans and also allows people seeking help to find refuge, a healthcare system that is affordable, clean water, clean food, an agriculture system that benefits the environment, and produces enough food to feed the billions of people on this planet. We all want these things. There's very few people who would hear that list and say, no, I don't want people to have equal rights. No, I don't want people to be healthy. We all want those things. The difference is in how we believe we're best going to get there with the limited options that our political system is presenting us with. And that's where we have to take to heart the fact that there are millions of us in this country, there are billions of us on this planet, and ultimately the power lies with us, with you, with me. We are all infinitely powerful spiritual beings. We are creative, emotive, expressive spiritual beings. It's part of the beauty of being human. We take our emotion and we create with it. We self-express and we create. And that's what I would want to encourage each one of you watching this to do. No matter how you feel about the results of yesterday's election, alchemize that emotion and let it inspire you to compassionate action, and ask yourself, what can I do to be part of creating the world that I would like to see? Because we can fight for policy change all we want. And yes, we'll get some wins here and there, but we'll see change a lot faster if we take action. If we just start doing our part in our small corner of the world to create the world that we want to live in. And there's millions of us in this country. There's 334.9. I don't know how you can have a fraction of a person, but that's what Google's telling me. 334.9 million people in the United States. If each one of us took the emotions that we feel and allowed them to inspire us to create through compassionate action, our country would be a different place overnight. We continue to put people out of our heart, to refuse to understand where they're coming from, to insist that we and we alone are right and our suffering is the only suffering that matters. Yours doesn't matter because it's different than mine. We continue to point the finger and be unable to empathize, unable to work together. We will never reach the beautiful world that we want to live in. We never will, because it doesn't matter who we elect or what policy change we see, we're still divided. There's a few people in power in this country, and there's 334.9 million of us. The power lies with us. If we remain divided, nothing is ever going to get done. And that's exactly what those in power want, because that's how they control us. Stop giving your power away to a politician. When you make these posts about if you voted for so-and-so, unfollow me, I have no room for you in my life anymore, you are giving your power away. You are playing into their playbook. You are doing exactly what they want you to do. Stop giving your power away. Call it back to yourself and use it to do something creative, productive in the world. Express that emotion as something beautiful. Whether you care about regenerative agriculture, or healthy school lunches, or conscious entrepreneurship, or reproductive rights, rights for the marginalized. I mean, we all care about these things. We all should care about all of them. But whatever it is that you are particularly passionate about, speak up. Do something about it. Call your power back to yourself. Stop giving it away through resentment and hatred. Yes, feel your feelings, feel your disappointment, feel your rage, and then call that back to yourself and use it to create. Alchemize it into courage and determination and creativity and inspiration. There's millions of us. There is one president. Thank you for watching.